The Antiquities of the Jews, Flavius Josephus Book II, Chapter 4 concerning the signal chastity of Joseph. Now Potiphar, an Egyptian, who was chief cook to King Pharaoh, bought Joseph of the merchants who sold him to him. And Potiphar had him in the greatest honor, and taught him the learning that became a free man, and gave him leave to make use of a diet better than was allotted to slaves. He also entrusted him with the care of his house. So although Joseph enjoyed these advantages, he did not abandon the virtue he had before, upon such a change in his condition. But he demonstrated that wisdom is able to govern the uneasy passions of life in those who truly possess it, and not merely put it on for a show under prosperity. 2. But when his master's wife had fallen in love with him, both because of the beauty of his body and his dexterous management of affairs, and because she supposed that if she made her desires known to him, she could easily persuade him to lie with her, and that Joseph would consider such an approach to be a piece of happy fortune, since he was a slave, she made her wicked intentions known and spoke to him about lying with her. However, Joseph rejected her entreaties. He did not think it agreeable to religion to yield to her, nor to commit a wrong that would bring affront and injury upon the man who had purchased him and honored him so greatly. Instead, he exhorted her to govern her passion, and laid before her the impossibility of obtaining her desires, which he believed could be conquered if she had no hope of succeeding. And he said that, as for himself, he would endure anything before he would be persuaded to it. For although it was fit for a slave, as he was, to do nothing contrary to his mistress, he might well be excused in a case where the contradiction was to commands such as these. But Joseph's opposition, unexpected by her, increased the violence of her passion, and she resolved to attempt again. 3. When, therefore, a public festival approached in which it was customary for women to attend the solemnity, she pretended to her husband that she was sick, so that she might remain alone and obtain leisure to press her desires upon Joseph again. When she had acquired this opportunity, she spoke more kindly than before, saying that he should have yielded to her first solicitation, because of the reverence he ought to show her dignity, and because of the vehemence of her passion, which had forced her, though his mistress, to stoop beneath her dignity. She said he might now wipe away the disgrace of his former refusal, for whether he had expected a repetition of her entreaties, which she now made with greater earnestness, or whether he had not believed she was truly sincere, she had now demonstrated that she meant no fraud, but was in genuine passion. She assured him that if he complied with her desires, he might expect not only the enjoyment of what honors he had already received, but still greater advantages. But if he rejected her again, he should expect revenge and hatred, and she would become his accuser to her husband, pretending that he had assaulted her, and that Potiphar would believe her rather than him. 4. Yet Joseph was not moved, neither by pity nor by fear. He opposed her solicitations, and did not yield to her threats. He chose to endure any punishment, rather than enjoy present advantages purchased by a crime that he knew deserved death. He reminded her that she was a married woman, that she ought to keep herself only for her husband, and that she ought to allow these considerations to have more weight with her than the short pleasures of unlawful dalliance, which would bring repentance afterwards. He warned her of the fear they would be in if found out, that concealment was uncertain, and that even while hidden, wickedness brought no peace. He said she might enjoy her husband openly without danger, and could have a boldness of good conscience before God and men. He added that she would better use her authority over him as a mistress if she persisted in chastity than if they were both made ashamed for wickedness, and that it is much better to have a life known to be good than to hope in the concealment of evil practices. 5. Joseph, by saying these things and more, attempted to restrain her passion, but she grew even more ungovernable and earnest. And when she despaired of persuading him, she laid her hands on him and attempted to force him. But Joseph escaped her hands, leaving his garment with her, and leaping out of her chamber. Seeing this, she feared he would expose her wickedness to her husband, and was also enraged that he had dishonored her with his refusal. So she resolved to accuse Joseph first, and to avenge herself upon him by slander. She framed her appearance carefully, pretending sorrow and confusion, so that the grief truly caused by her frustrated lust might appear to be grief for an attack upon her chastity. When her husband came home, disturbed at the sight of her, she accused Joseph. O husband, may you not live a day longer if you do not punish this wicked slave who desired to defile your bed. He has forgotten who he was when he came to our house, and the favors he has received from your bounty. This man laid a secret design to abuse your wife, and that during a festival when you would be absent. She claimed his former modesty was only fear of his master, that he now presumed upon his advancement, and that he had hoped he might touch Potiphar's wife as he had touched his wealth. She then showed Joseph's garment as proof. Potiphar, deceived by her tears in the garment, and being moved by love for his wife, did not examine the truth, but took Joseph as wicked and threw him into the malefactor's prison, and had an even greater opinion of his wife's supposed modesty and chastity. End of chapter 4. Listen out for the next chapter, chapter 5.